Welcome to All Business No Boundaries, a collection of supply chain stories by DHL Supply Chain, the North American leader in contract logistics. I'm your host, Will Haywood. This is a place for in-depth discussions on the difference DHL makes on your supply chain challenges. Today's episode is Delivering Loyalty, how YETI and DHL build trust through supply chain excellence. Let's dive in. Good morning, welcome. We're going to start the way we always do. I'll ask you to introduce yourself, so your name, the organization you're with, and how long you've been in your current role and what that role is. So Marty, you're our guest. You start, please.
Good morning. I'm Marty Duff. I'm the Senior Vice President of Supply Chain and Operations at YETI. I've been with YETI for 3 years.
All right, Mark.
Good morning, Will. Mark Smith, Senior Vice President of Operations in North America in the consumer sector, and been with the company 10 years. Been in the current role for 5 years.
All right, Andries.
Morning, Mark. Andries Retief. I'm the Global Chief Development Officer for DHL Supply Chain. I've been with DHL for 17 years.
All right, super. Well, welcome. Thanks for being with us today. Looking forward to the conversation. The theme today is amazing customer experiences, and it's fitting. We're at our one of our most important customer events of the year, Customer Club. This is the 8th year we've done it. We're out in Atlanta, Georgia. I wondered if you could kind of expand on what we just talked about in terms of your role. So what do you in your day-to-day, Marty, what's your scope of responsibilities for YETI?
Yeah, so I have responsibility for the global supply chain at YETI. It's the end-to-end supply chain, so plan, source, make, deliver, plus customer experience, sustainability, and quality. I would say my day-to-day really is focused around driving our strategic priorities. We're focused as a product company, so driving product innovation is critical. Global expansion is also one of the key strategic pillars. And then I would say operationally, how do we drive operational excellence? And we talk a lot about driving customer, cost, and cash, the 3 C's, plus sustainability. And so most of my day-to-day is focused around driving those strategic pillars and then making sure we drive operational excellence.
Okay, excellent. We're going to get back on a lot of those themes as we talk this morning. Andries, you've got some customer experience responsibilities. Tell us what that means for you and your role at DHL.
Yeah, the Chief Development Officer role is really all about growth. It's about making sure that we drive that growth agenda, obviously for the organization, but even more importantly, support customers in their growth agenda. And making sure that customers like YETI, we understand your needs, we understand your priorities, those 3 C's you've just mentioned, and really tap into that with our own solutions that we have, and helping customers be successful on their journey.
Yeah, terrific. And Mark, you've worked with Marty and YETI for a long time. I wondered if you could tell us from an operational standpoint, what does amazing customer experience mean to you?
That's a great question, and I can tell you that YETI they epitomize that for us, because the way they drive their business, the way they drive innovation, their mindset, very creative organization, it makes us a better provider. It makes us very interested and motivated and excited about driving that innovation, being on that journey with them, and really trying to fit into that model of how they think. And it really is a unique opportunity for us as a third-party provider to do something that's outside of the traditional or the norm.
So I want to pivot to the Customer Club event. So we're going to talk about customers in 2 layers. So there's the consumer, which Marty is thinking about all the time, and we're sort of behind him there. But YETI's a customer of DHL, and this event, Customer Club, is an opportunity for our customers to spend time with us and each other. Andries and Marty, this is your first time here. I wondered, as you came in, what are your sort of expectations? What have you seen so far? We had a nice event last night, and what are you looking forward to as we sort of round the next couple days out?
Yeah, I would say came in with a couple expectations. One, I think, how do we network, both with the DHL and the leadership team across DHL? That's been great. And then across the peer group, right? You have an amazing customer group. And so having a chance to get an interaction with them, meet them personally, but also have an opportunity to benchmark and learn some of their best practices. I'm really excited to get out and see the Keurig Dr. Pepper facility today. So it's just having those types of interactions and those types of experiential learnings is fantastic.
Good. It should be a good day. How about you, Andries?
Yeah, I think networking is something that probably is at the forefront of my mind too. But what I would add to that is just from our perspective, it was, for me, it's super important that we spend this time listening to customers. So, you know, being able to facilitate some of those conversations that we see between customers is a privilege, frankly, from our perspective. And it's really good to then listen in on that, understand what customers talk about, what's on their minds. We have some ideas around, you know, what is moving around in the industry. We obviously deal with a lot of customers across many sectors, and we position those thoughts and those ideas into the room, and then we step back and we try and listen to what customers think about those and whether or not it's on point. And I think that's been something that I've really been looking forward to do this week. Also as I move into this role and as we try and understand what in North America is applicable to other parts of the world from a global perspective. These are all the various expectations or things that I think we can enjoy this week.
Yeah, great. Mark, you're sort of an old hand at Customer Club, so tell us what your experience has been to date and what you're seeing similarly and differently this year.
What's exciting for me about it is the fact that we can interact with all of our customers. You know, we tend to be, at least in North America, very sector-centric. This gives us a chance to interact and expose our selves and conversations. And Andre said listening is a very important thing. And you know, we need to not only listen, we need to figure out the art of listening. And our customers know when we're listening, and they know when we're not. So this gives us a huge advantage cross-sector as a North American region to really drive the relationship with customers. And I had customers last year, this year already say to me, you know, Mark, I know we don't work with you in the consumer sector, but we certainly like to interact with you, like talking to you. You can share ideas from a different perspective because you're in a different sector and servicing different types of customers. So great event and definitely the best bang for our buck.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
So I hear kind of a shared passion about customer experience between DHL and YETI. Obviously, YETI has a premium product in the market. I'm an avid fan and owner of many YETI products. I wonder, when you guys listen to consumers, how do you do that? And then how does that translate into the supply chain experience that you try to operate on their behalf?
Yeah, great, and I appreciate your support for the brand. You know, YETI focuses on making premium, durable product. We have an eye on design as well, and so I think when you bring all those things together, quality's at the forefront, that durability, and you know, we're proud to say we make badass product, and I think that resonates with our consumers. And so when we are actually out there, I mean, we do a lot of field work. We have a number of ambassadors across YETI globally that are out in the wild, really doing their passions and their pursuits. And we're listening and learning from what those consumer experiences are, what their needs are, what their unmet needs are. And I think it's the unmet need that really helps to drive insight into the product innovation pipeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I got a bit of that when we had a visit in Memphis, and I wondered if you could just share, it's a good long story, but I wondered if you could condense sort of the origin story of YETI and kind of what was the precipitating need that your founders saw, and then how that's expanded into what is like a very multi-line consumer brand today.
Yeah, we were super excited. Roy Cedars, who's the co-founder, his brother Ryan, he was with us in Memphis at the re-engineering launch celebration. But they're both avid fishermen, right? Grew up in Texas and would go out to the flats and fish. And they would have, I would say, an unmet need in terms of the durability and the performance of a cooler that they were using. And working in the industry, I would say they kind of came up in a family that was focused on being entrepreneurs and really focused on driving product. And so really through their own personal experiences, developed and designed what was the precursor to the current Tundra cooler, but it was one of the first coolers. And it was a cooler that you could stand on and had really strong stability, so that when they're out in the fishing, they could use it as a base, but also from when they caught what they were catching that day, you know, ice retention, thermal properties, and the performance of the cooler also worked really well. And so really it was designing and building that cooler that launched the origins of YETI.
Yeah, Yeah, that's great. And so how did we wind up together? Maybe start with you, and Mark, you can kind of fill in from the DHL perspective.
Sure. So I think YETI's been going through a tremendous growth curve. We're going to celebrate our 20th anniversary next year. We're public for 10 years now. Last year we were just about $1.8 billion. And so if I back, and Mark can probably tell more of what happened 5 years ago, but we've really been going through a growth evolution, and knew that what got us to here won't get us to the future. And so how do we work with best-in-class partners? How do we have the ability to build out an incredible network supporting increased product complexity, increased channel complexity? And so I think that's really why the partnership between DHL and YETI was formed. Is we have an amazing growth trajectory. We've had a lot of success, but we knew that we needed to partner with some better partners. And so Mark, I know you were instrumental in getting that started. Maybe you could elaborate on how that started.
Yeah, I didn't start day one with the YETI experience, but I inherited it pretty quickly. And if we go back to the Salt Lake City startup back in 2018-19, pre-COVID, we had a relatively small patch in comparison to what we're doing in Memphis today in Salt Lake, and kicked that off and really got off on good footing, which I think was the catalyst for what we're doing, what we ended up getting to do in Memphis. But when we did the startup in Memphis, that was really the big box omni-channel focus, a lot going on, a lot of puts and takes and activity and dynamics and complications to the business that we didn't see so much in Salt Lake City. But that was admittedly so, that was a tough startup for a number of reasons, I think, for those complex situations. But we persevered. It was during a COVID year. We were all wearing masks. We were all dealing with those particular circumstances throughout. But it's everything we learned, not only in Salt Lake, but as we migrated to the Memphis market. One of the best things that happened for YETI and us is that Marty came on board. Thank you, Marty. But it's as I said a minute ago, it's such a unique opportunity for DHL and YETI, and it's different than a lot of the traditional CPG customers that I deal with, which is exciting for me. And I think that over the last 5 years, what we've learned together, and we've learned it together, worked together, collaborated, and really didn't take time to pick at each other. We took more time learning how to adapt and define and control and design a world that was best fitting for YETI.
Yeah, if I could build, sure. I think having strategic partnerships, like what does that mean and what is it about the consumer experience? I talk about listening to our consumers and what their unmet needs are. I think we had a lot of joint learnings together. Our business model has evolved significantly. And I talk about the product expansion. Our SKU complexity is up significantly versus what we first started. We make everything from large coolers to drinkware, chairs. I don't think people have a full appreciation for the breadth and depth of the line. And that's just continued to expand. And then the channel complexity, we talk a lot about it. Not many DCs are truly omni-channel. Like we're servicing direct-to-consumer, our e-commerce business is pretty significant. We have retail stores, we have a wholesale business, we do fulfilled by merchant for Amazon. We have a large customization business where we're doing a lot of in and outs for supporting the customization sites. It's a really complex business when you layer the product complexity, the SKU complexity comes with that channel complexity. And so I think, as Mark said, you have a learning when you're first getting started, and it's a complex business. And I think we had to learn, how does DHL and how does that Memphis operation best operate? It's 1 million square feet under roof. It's not a small operation. So how can we learn the best of what DHL is? DHL certainly has become subject matter experts in our business, and we've built a lot of joint relationships through that. So I think, like any time you build trust, sometimes you have to be vulnerable. You have to have learnings. You have to have some setbacks, but it's really how do you learn from those setbacks? How do you set the right plans in place? And I think we've had passion from both sides to get better, to learn from one another, to unlock capabilities, unlock best practices. And I think that's what leads us to today. And we're super excited about where the partnership is and the new Memphis site that we were out
Yeah.
to see, and all the re-engineering work that's gone into that. We're really primed for the future. But I don't think if we hadn't had those learning experiences up front, I don't think we'd be as strong as we are today.
Great. I want to come back to the re-engineering in just a second. But Andries, from a DHL standpoint, thinking about high growth customers like YETI has been, how does DHL Supply Chain think about position themselves to support the evolving needs that happen fairly quickly?
Yeah, I'm fascinated just listening to the conversation that was going on here, because a couple of themes just kept coming up, and the one word that you've used a number of times is complexity. And I think from a DHL perspective, we really pride ourselves on the fact that we try to make that complexity simple. Growth is not going to come without complexity. You've just mentioned the various routes to market, the channels that you've got to navigate, the challenges of startups. So DHL positions ourselves, well, to answer your question around how do we apply the solutions that we have in our toolkit, which have been tried and tested in various markets, in various sectors, also for the benefit of customers that want to go onto that growth journey. And I think that is really where we see and we feel we can add the most value. The other theme that came out here that I really liked is the fact that when that works at its best is when there's good collaboration between ourselves and our customers. And again, it sounds like this is a perfect example of that. And I think that collaboration, together with us trying to simplify some of the complexity that comes with a growing business, with tried and tested solutions, gives us a really good combination of tools and behaviors that helps both companies be successful. And I think then we're in a good place.
Yeah, great. Okay, so the re-engineering. So a couple questions. What precipitated it? And then brass tacks, what changes were made in the building? And I know there are a lot of them, so I'll turn it over to you guys to...
Maybe I'll start with what precipitated it, and maybe Mark, you can comment on some of the engineering solutions that we came. As Mark mentioned, I think when we came together, it started with a visioning session. We spent some time actually up in Annville, Pennsylvania, and in the campus there, and we were having really an all-day offsite around what the future of YETI's distribution network should look like. We had been exploring different ways of what would a multi-node network be, how could we focus on the customer and get faster from a direct-to-consumer perspective, how could we deal with the growing SKU complexity and channel complexity. It was really through that conversation that we stepped back and then said, okay, what are the best options, right? We've been growing, as you said, strong double-digit growth, growing in SKU complexity, growing in the product portfolio. And so we realized that the solution we put in place 5 years ago was not going to be suitable to drive the growth. We were and are, prior to this, maxing out the capacity of the facility, the throughput, and it just wasn't, it was capable of doing what we needed to do on day one, but 5 years in, it wasn't the right solution any longer. And I think through that collaboration and the insight sharing, that's really where DHL, and this is what we appreciate about DHL, bringing all the resources to bear, the engineering teams, the technology teams, the operations teams, to listen to what those needs are, and then come up with a solution. And maybe Mark, you can maybe take it from there.
Yeah, to your point about the meeting in Annville, what I believe was the cherry on top of the solution was that we all sat in the room, talked about expanding node operations, moving into the Northeast, and the more we looked at it, the more we had all of our resources come together, we said, and this is where the relationship, in my opinion, evolved even greater, is the fact that we were interested in doing the right thing for our customer with YETI and putting ourselves in their shoes and understanding their challenges around SKU growth and where we had to go to manage that impact.
So for our listeners who aren't operators or engineers, could you describe one of the re-engineering technologies or pieces of CapEx that you put in and what that did to change what things were before to what they are now?
Yeah, the things I would say for the listeners, if you haven't had an opportunity to see autonomous bots in a floor, it's really remarkable. We've got 3 different bots in this solution, 2 that are in the locus for really supporting the direct consumer pick operation. And I think what that has done is helped unlock labor efficiency. These are jobs that not everyone wants to do. They're ergonomically challenged sometimes with the number of steps you have to take, and so the bots really make it a lot more efficient for the people on the floor working. The other one that I am super excited about, and I've spent a lot of time in distribution centers, and when you talk to floor level employees or the leadership team, one of the toughest jobs is actually unloading trailers. Especially in a market like Memphis, the temperatures can get up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit, and you have people in there. In COVID, they had to wear masks. It's a really uncomfortable physical job, all the twisting and turning, and we deployed a robot solution with Stretch that allows that to be automated. And that gets people out of the trailers in a much more ergonomic way, and has an incredible solution. I also love the fact that the distribution center named those two machines, so they're affectionately called Elsa and Anna. And so I love that we have this personalization of these robots in the facility, and the team has really adopted those, and they really appreciate the benefits. When you combine all those, the level of capability from where we were to where we are, the better experience for the workers, because it's just as important for us at YETI to make sure that the DHL team is well taken care of, they're efficient on the floor, they want to come and work. We want that to be a facility where DHL and YETI are proud of, and that you have strong employee engagement. And so I think the team has done a great job, the solution does a great job of that. And I think when we walked the floor, you certainly felt that from that staff.
Absolutely. I will tell you, any operation, the pulse of the operation has to be the visible morale of people. Everyone you talk to now with the redesign is very, very happy about the automation and everything we've brought to the environment with the locust bots, which they're fun in general. And if you're first around those, they can make you a little nervous because they'll creep up on you and you don't even know they're there. They won't run you over. They're actually, they take a certain form of life, quite honestly. They go from being animated to almost human-like in some ways. It's quite interesting. It's fun. So that to me is the barometer of any operation. The success of the operation is the people, and how they're responding to not only the challenges with complexity, but seeing the change, embracing that change, and really owning it. And I think that comes with naming the stretch bots.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. That puts good color on it. Okay, so last topic is you're a U.S.-founded company, but your ambitions don't stop at the border. I know, and they've crept over already. Tell us what you're thinking about in terms of moving into other geographies, how that's working from a supply chain standpoint, what kind of demands that puts on your organization to make that happen.
Yeah, sure. So YETI, founded in Texas, really came up through, I would say, the Sun Belt, southern coastal type of environments. The U.S., when I first joined 5 years ago, it was probably close to 90% of the revenue came from the U.S. market. And so growing internationally has been a key strategic priority. So Australia, Canada were two of the first markets that we went to. We now have a presence in the U.K. and mainland Europe. And now the new frontier has been to go to North Asia. And so we just opened Japan with a DHL facility in partnership in January, actually. And so we're now live in North Asia, supporting the business there. And we have a growth plan that's going to continue to look at, how do we go to markets like Korea, China potentially, and then continue to expand from there. And so it's really been about driving that global geographic expansion.
Yeah, great. So Andries, I know you had some experience in Asia, so you can speak to that.
Yeah.
But then in your new role, you have, sort of thinking about how to enable these companies like YETI to fulfill their desire to grow internationally. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we could probably unpack that for quite some time, but I think from a DHL perspective, what we want to do with customers like YETI is to say, how can we leverage best our scale and the large scale that we have, our footprint globally, also for your expansion plans, right? And I think the Japan case is an example of that. So at the same time, when we've had an operation like the one we have in the US, how do we apply those best practices, move those across world? I think that's part of making sure that a Japan startup is better than a US startup, But it all comes back down to providing customers with that sense of flexibility, agility, speed to market. When you're a growing organization, you see the opportunity in the market, you feel like you don't want to wait to capture that. You really want to get in there, you want to leverage the local knowledge that our organization very often has, given our footprint. And then how do we put that to best use for your own growth agenda? So I think from a global perspective, that's what DHL positions itself to do. I spoke to one of your team last night, which tells me that in Japan it certainly has gone better from a startup perspective than it did previously. That means it's working. That means we're learning lessons, we're applying them into new markets. And I think these days the supply chain is no longer something that happens in the background, right? I mean, it's really visible. It really is a game changer for organizations, and it's essential if you want to drive a growth expansion strategy like yourselves. So that's what we position ourselves to do, and I'm proud to say that the team in this case, and listening to the two of you is fascinating, but that the team in this case has done that in a way that is collaborative and so far very successful, and I'm very excited about how we can do more of that together with YETI.
Yeah, and Andre, I think it's a great point, and I think one of the key things that was successful about Japan is the combination of global and local.
Yep.
We had strong global partnership, but the team locally did a fantastic job of combining, and we had a number of summit sessions where we came together to make sure that we understood how we could leverage, and teams from both sides, both our leadership team as well as some members that have been operating here, went over. Yep. And then we have a fantastic local combination as well. And so there was trust built across both ends. Yeah. And I think that was really fantastic, that drove the learning and made the launch successful.
That's great to hear, and I think Mark made the point, but from a DHL perspective, we often say that a lot of our business is a people business, right? And I think your point is then absolutely spot on. It comes down to those transparent conversations, those organizations, both globally and locally, saying, how do we get the right solution here? What is the market need specifically, but what is also the best practice we have globally that we can apply? But all of that knowledge sits within the teams, both from our end and yours. So to know that the teams work well together, to collaborate, I think that is the ingredient of the success, and often is a sign of a good trusted partnership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. All right, so last word for you, Marty. What can we expect from YETI in the years ahead?
I think consistency in terms of the strategy, focus on global expansion, focus on product innovation, and then a drive to get better together around operational excellence. I think those are the three things that I would focus on. We want to double and then some in terms of size, and we won't be able to do that without a great partner like DHL.
Yeah, great. Well, we're very happy to be your partner, and appreciate you coming on the podcast and joining us for Customer Club this year. It's going to be a great couple days, and we'll check back in with you to see how things are going in the future.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
Mark.
everyone.
Thanks, Andries.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate us and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also listen to our entire library of episodes on our website, dhl.com/ABNB podcast. See you next time.